1. How do we feel about getting rolling and allowing Kent to join us when he gets here? Great.
We are recording.
Fantastic. Thank you for that heads up. And somehow it's appropriate that I think this is my last meeting and I still have to ask this question. Do I have to ask for a motion to start the meeting? Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the Green Bay Public Arts Commission to order on August 25th, 2021. Let's start with roll call. Myself, Kelly Strickland, here. Alex Zacharias.
Present.
Alderman Lynn Gerlach.
Here.
Chuck Yang.
Here.
And Kent Hutchison. Not with us yet. Our liaisons, Beth Lemke.
Present.
Matt Vandenboomen.
Here.
And Razel Piguero Amante, who we know is not able to join us this morning. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any dissent or abstention? Great. How about we do it all over again for the minutes? A motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
I second.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any discussion or abstention? Very good. Motion carries. All right, to our regular business portion of the meeting. First item we have is consideration with possible action to approve the mural design presented by Howe Elementary to be placed on the Mason Street underpass, framing Howe Elementary School playground. Laura, you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, so Diana Delbecchi from Howe Elementary School has been in communication with myself and also Steve Grenier, who's with us this morning. Howe Elementary is looking at putting a mural on the Mason Street pillars that actually sit in their playground. Their playground is located underneath the Mason Street Bridge. Currently, there are some very old, outdated, rough-looking murals in that playground. So they were looking to make it an enjoyable place for their students and also reflect the diversity of their school and the vibrancy of their school. Before they can move forward with it, since this is Wisconsin DOT property, it needs to get approved through our body before we can kind of send it off to them to get their final approval. Did I cover everything, Steve?
I think so, Laura. Again, I'm Steve Grenier. I'm the Public Works Director for the city. So I'm the liaison between the city and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. These support columns are, again, DOT property, and as Laura indicated, they have some graphics on them that Howe installed many years ago. Those are technically unpermitted graphics that were installed without the permission of the Wisconsin DOT. It's kind of a no harm, no foul, but one of the things that we found as the city was pursuing the approval and installation of the Astor Street mural for the Fox, we received notification from DOT saying, hey guys, before you put stuff on our structures, we'd at least like the opportunity to review and approve that. So there is a formal approval process that Laura speaks the art portion of it. I can translate the art portion to DOT and speak the engineer end of things here. So we've been working collaboratively, as Laura has indicated, with Diana and the school district to get this approved. The graphics, the draft mural in the packet for your review. Once we get approval, assuming we get approval from the Public Arts Commission, this report will go to the Common Council next Tuesday. And assuming the Common Council also approves the installation, take those approvals along with a DOT form that needs to be completed, filled out, and send that in, but we've already had preliminary discussions with the DOT about this. So ready to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, first, Steve, I just wanted to say hello. It's a real pleasure to meet you. And the Public Works department is such an integral ingredient to almost all of the work that the Public Art Commission can do. So I'm really glad to see you in conversation with this group. I see that the staff recommends the project. I don't really see any reason to poke a bunch of holes in it. I just had a couple of questions. One is, who is the artist? How was the piece actually arrived at? Just out of curiosity.
Diana reached out to me a while back, and I gave them our muralist list that we have based off of the I guess you could call it a survey that artists are welcome to fill out and submit. So I shared those with her. And then I know she was also in discussions with Sally Ebeling from downtown Green Bay, which is where I think they actually selected their artist from. The artist is Irino Medina, which I haven't worked with, but they selected this artist. And then the photos of the students that are going to be in the mural, those have already been approved for release through the parents and the school. So yeah.
That was actually maybe my second and related question, was just to ensure that everyone was comfortable with the process of the photo application. That's a slightly, it's a sort of unusual incorporation. So just whatever the technique is that's used to make sure that there's some structural integrity to whatever the material is that those photos are on, and applying those to what looks to be cement pylons. That just is a little bit tricky. And I just wanted to raise that as a question of it looking good for any period of time, because I would be afraid that they would start to flake. But that's my only question.
It's my understanding that they're going to be painting the portraits. It's
So
just
it's
the initial kind of rough sketch design to
Right.
get the concept across. But no, I was under the impression they were going to be painted on with the rest of the abstract design and the this is how portion as well.
Excellent. In that case, I will only share my delight at the metaphor of having young people as the pillars of our community. I love it.
I have a question. Is there a timeline?
They're looking at getting started in September. If all the approvals go through and everything else, they're looking to get started painting in September.
Any other questions, comments, observations, or celebrations at this time?
I submit approval. Oh, sorry, Lynn.
I was just going to say probably the same thing you were going to say. I think it's wonderful, and I would be prepared to support it.
And I second.
Okay.
Great. Does that constitute a formal motion?
Yes, for me it does.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Any abstentions or dissents? Fantastic. Motion carries. Good on ya, Howe Elementary. All right, next on our agenda is consideration.
Thank you, Steve. I was just going to say,
yeah.
Steve doesn't have to stay, but thank you for coming. You're more than
Thanks,
welcome to
Steve.
stay if you wish.
Yes, and please come back.
I will definitely be back, but I do have another meeting I have to get to, so thank you.
Very good. Good to see you.
Thank you, Steve.
Consideration with possible action on discussion to formulate potential future projects and program ideas for the Green Bay Public Arts Commission. Laura, do you want to walk us through this, or?
Yeah, so in talking with you and I think a few other commissioners, there's been some interest expressed to brainstorm potential ideas and have kind of ideas in our pocket should funding come in, should the right donor come in. And I think with our percent for art policy kind of working through the process, it would be good on our part to have some ideas kind of in our back pocket should it fit the funding and the area. But in no way are any of these ideas we discussed today for sure. This is kind of a playground space. So I had requested that all of you submit your kind of public art dreams and schemes for ideas and programs, projects that you would like to potentially see happen. A lot of you did share those with me, and I've put them in an Excel spreadsheet that I can bring up for us to go through. But I would like each of you, for those who did submit stuff, to kind of run through your ideas. I'll give you about 5 minutes each to run through your ideas. If you didn't submit them to me ahead of time, but you have something that you want to pitch in, we can add that to the list. And then from there, I'd like to kind of discuss the ideas that we've brought up today. If some are you're feeling that some are stronger, that we should really kind of put some effort behind, we can explore those. If there are other ideas where it just doesn't feel like it's a fit for what we do, perhaps we cut those from the list. And then from there, next steps forward, kind of determining what we do with this list. Is this something that we just hang on to? And maybe every quarter we have another brainstorming session to discuss, or maybe like twice a year we go through and kind of have these touch points to brainstorm ideas. Because I'm only one person. I come up with ideas and I have included my ideas in the list, but from receiving the ideas that you've presented, I was like, I never would have thought of that. So I think we are stronger combining all of our voices and ideas together for things that we might be able to implement in the future. So yeah, does that seem good? Are we ready to look at the list, or does anyone have any questions before we look at the list? Anything that I'm forgetting, Cheryl? Okay. Ready for the list? Beautiful. All right. Are you seeing an Excel spreadsheet?
No, but we see your cat. A very cute cat.
That is my cute cat. Sorry about that. Picked the wrong screen. All right. This says Excel spreadsheet. Maybe we're going to get a cat again. Okay, I think it worked this time.
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, so also please forgive me as I kind of muddle my way through Excel here, but
Can you make it a little bigger for us, please?
yeah. How's
Thank you.
that?
That's good, thanks.
Okay. So yeah, I guess just kind of going down the list, I did call you guys out by your brilliant ideas, because otherwise I would have forgotten who submitted what. So I guess starting off from the top of the list, we got Kelly. Would you like to tell us more about your Baird Creek soundscape idea?
Sure. I have attached this project to Baird Creek specifically, but the idea of a soundscape is really something that can be done anywhere, and it's a very flexible piece of audio art. So the idea would be to engage with a group of artists to respond to the environment of the Baird Creek Trail. So over on the east side, the Baird Creek Trail is such an integral part of everybody's life over here. And so asking artists, poets, or actors to do a short interpretive piece of text, maybe that they're inspired by the environment, and to have a little app where you can listen to it on your phone. So there are markers along the trail, and the idea is that if you're at marker X, you stop, you play the piece that's inspired by where you're standing, and it kind of causes you to see, engage, and think about yourself and your environment in a new way. I've seen these things done from a purely kind of artistic perspective that's really just about inspiration and interpretation. But I've also seen little educational pieces dropped into it. So I can see the Baird Creek Preservation Foundation being interested in, as a partner, in potentially addressing some of the topography that's so unique to that particular trail, or ways to call out community organizations that are just sort of off the beaten path. So there's a lot of ways to look at it, and it would require some kind of central vision to sort of develop what the desired outcome of the soundscape is. As I said, I had this idea originally of, Bear Creek would be a great place to do this, because I do see on occasion school groups leave little arts projects to engage with at the mile markers. And I thought that this was one that kind of had the potential to unify adults using the creek. But I've seen these done for downtown areas where, for instance, there's a marker out in front of the Neville by the river, and it's an Indigenous actor reading a poem by an Indigenous poet inspired by their experience on the land. Or so to think about where you are through the eyes of someone else who has also been where you are. So there's lots of ways to slice and dice it, and it's not that hard. It's pretty affordable. And my secret dream here is to get more performing arts integrated into the Public Arts Commission work. I love the murals that we do, but I would like to see if there isn't the possibility to pursue other disciplines.
Awesome. I love it. Do you have just kind of I'm guessing this might be, I know I had asked you too, as far as time range of when you maybe would anticipate something like this to take place, 3 to 5 years? Yeah. If you had to estimate.
Yeah, I think from like a vision conceit of some kind of director through identifying the artists, and then the artists identifying their contribution, and then recording, I would say it could be 6 months, but then when you incorporate the idea of the seasonality, it might actually take a full year, because our community looks so different throughout different seasons, and I wonder if that would need to be considered. So I would say 6 months to a year.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That has been your 5 minutes. So we can continue on to Lynn. Lynn, would you like to share your ideas that you've pitched?
Sure. But first of all, I want to say that I thought that Kelly's idea was just fantastic. I'm so excited about that. So these are not my ideas. I'm not an artist. I happen to have a friend in the neighborhood who, well, you know her. It's Beth Metza. She had the 16th mural, park mural in our list last time. And so Beth has also proposed doing a mural, a community mural on the Hmong Culture Service Center on Main Street. And she has already talked with them. She has a good relationship with them. There's somebody from that organization that would like to meet with this station when you want to go ahead with this. And I know this might sound really goofy, but Beth and I both really love to watch HGTV, and we watch Hometown, and they painted that Wetumpka. I can't even remember what state Wetumpka is in, but they had the community come and paint that huge community mural, and that was her inspiration for this. And she just feels like would be kind of a wonderful welcome to the East Side as you come down Main Street. You've just crossed into the East Side. This is near, I believe it's near Riverside Ballroom, Elizabeth Street, that area. And that's all I know about it. I'm just presenting Beth's idea, and I know that she would follow up very well on it. So shall I talk about the other one, Laura? Okay, so this is also Beth's idea, and I think this could kind of catch on for other neighborhood associations. This is very much a neighborhood association idea. Beth was one of the people who started Old Preble Neighborhood Association, and we got a grant to replace the street signs around the perimeter of the neighborhood, which many, many Green Bay neighborhood associations do. And so they're branded with our logo, and Beth collected the old signs, and she wants to ask Kent to make a sculpture for the neighborhood park out of the street signs. I think that she hasn't mentioned it to Kent yet, and he's not here today, but I think it's a great idea. And she just like it to be in the park and just, one of those neighborhood pride things. And as I said, I think it could catch on with other neighborhoods as they brand their street signs too. So those are my contributions that weren't mine at all.
You did also mention I put your other idea that I had asked you about.
Oh, okay.
So don't cut yourself short. You did bring an idea to the table.
I did. So now I'm on a roll, right? Now I'm on my third one. And this is not at all developed like Beth's ideas, but I'm very interested in encouraging children to read and think and write. And I believe that the pandemic has had, well, I know as a grandmother that the pandemic has had a real impact on children. And I think that it would be wonderful 25 years from now when they're grown up and they have little children of their own to be able to show them something that they created that recorded how the pandemic affected their lives. I have no clue how this would be carried out. I'm just saying that, but I'm interested in anything that encourages children to read and write and to think, because I'm finding out from my grandchildren that now in the day of Google, there's not a lot of thinking going on, just a lot of cutting and pasting. That's it.
Thank you. Those are all, I'm excited. I'm just going to say, I thought all of the ideas were great today. So I'm just going to say that at the top, all of your ideas that you shared with me were great.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Lynn.
All right. Moving on, we have Matt Vandenboomen. Matt, would you like to share us your killer ideas that you presented?
Sure, I can just kind of read through these right now. I got a little bit more explanation in them. But first one here, Green Bay Stories. Team up with an entity like the library and learn about lesser known stories or anecdotes about Green Bay. These could be stories that made or make the city what it is today and have shaped the culture. The focus here would be on lesser known pieces or stories. We would develop a group of these stories, maybe 3, 5, or 7, and then pair the stories with an artist, and they can create a piece in their medium that exemplifies and tells that story. The series can be branded and can be continuously added to. They could all be in a central location or spread across the city in kind of a, find and seek kind of method. Second, I think I mentioned this at one point in a different meeting, but computer arts scholarship for youth, giving youth Adobe subscriptions that are looking to explore the software but don't have the means to get started. That's something that could happen if they have access to a computer at home, or they could sign in at a computer at a library and they kind of have their own key to unlock that software if they want to kind of play around with that some more and get some of those skills. Architecture, lights, highlight. Our winters are not only cold but dark. We could feature or shed light on some of the downtown's historic buildings using temporary light installations on these buildings in the dark winter months. The lights could simply be 3 blue lights casting on the facade to help users identify the group of buildings being featured, or it could be more elaborate and include artists designed light installations. Tours to see all of the installations / landmarks could also be included. And then I know, Laura, you just mentioned something that was kind of similar to this. But I think the main idea would be publishing this on our website would be to have that developing an artist roster list of trusted artists that we can pull from sometimes more fast-paced projects, and then to also publish this list as a resource for private entities to source and commission local artists for private projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I included this just because I think it's expanding upon what we do have, because we do have a database. It isn't publicly published on the website, but I do share that out when I get requests. I think also the key part in this is trusted artists. I think that creates a question that I have, at least, is we don't have any restrictions for people who apply to the database. If people apply, I add them to the list. So we have the full gamut of artists, from people who've been doing it 20, 30 years to people who are just getting started out. So I don't know if when you talk about trusted artists, if the commission itself kind of needs to sort through that list. I know in Minnesota, they actually go through kind of their database and hand select, like, this is our key artists that we trust, or that we know they have experience, they're able to do these types of things. So I guess that's just something that I had thought of when I saw that come up, and that's something that we can think about for a future meeting, perhaps, is whether or not we want to hone in on that list more, or just present the full list and let people select on their own. But no, all of the ideas you presented were solid. Okay, continuing on to Chuck. Chuck, would you like to share your ideas?
Sure. Like Lynn, I don't have a lot of art experience either, but most of my ideas came from recent events that I've attended. So like sitting at Bay Beach, I noticed there's a lot of green space and a lot of areas that are protected, by the fences, like around the new train ride that goes underneath the Zippin Pippin. There's a green space where the train makes a big loop, and I thought that'd be a great location for, like a large art piece where it could be moving, like the last sculptures that we were looking at. One of the pieces had moving components where I thought, yeah, I wouldn't want children to climb on it, but here it would actually work. And all these art pieces there, being Bay Beach, would get so much exposure as people walk by. Children will see it, adults will see it. I just thought that would be a great location. Since we have a rotating art program, we could add a few more within the park area. Yeah, but then the park does close, and so I thought, well, there's potentially, just like how Botanical Garden does the Festival of Lights with WPS, there's potential that we could also set up like a art walkthrough where artists put exhibits throughout the park, and once the park is closed, there's no one really there, but then you can still have people walk through and look at all the art pieces, and maybe make a weekend out of it. And Parks Department might be able to open it up and sell concessions at the same time. So that was just a thought that I had as, with regards to Bay Beach. But then I was also at the kiddie carnival with my kids. And I remember as a child myself, we used to have help at the parks make paper mache for the kiddie carnival parade. And so I thought that's a chance for artists to also work with children and, maybe or have pieces for children to be able to paint and stuff like that, and then have it displayed at the kiddie carnival. So that was just another thought that I had for that. And then I was looking online and I saw that someone mentioned about putting, having artist demonstrations. And I thought, we have a few nice park shelters throughout the city where, artists could put demonstrations on. And I thought that might be something worthwhile trying. But then again, I'm not sure if it would actually work, but it's just a thought. That's all I had.
Thank you. All thoughts are welcome. And then the one that I had received, Rochelle, she's not here, but she had shared with me an idea for a Green Bay Songwriters Collective, which potentially could be quarterly events that feature a concert and include things like songwriting workshops, community engagement, and all of that good stuff with songwriters. So I included that on the list today too, because I think it's a solid idea. Some of these below are ideas that I pulled from our arts menu previously, and then I've included a few as well. So I'll zip through these really quick. And then Alex and Beth, if you have any last ideas that you would like to share, I can include those on the list. And then we can kind of move to discuss next steps. Oh yeah, sure.
I have 3, if I could share those.
Absolutely. Do you guys want to share your ideas first, and then I'll just run through the remaining ones that are on here?
I don't understand your question.
I have some other ideas on here too. So if I can add your ideas to the list and then go through the last level.
However you want to speak is fine with me, Laura. It's easier to go through your stuff. I haven't read through this list, so maybe some of the things I'm talking about are on there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just run through these really quick. Baird Creek Sculpture Trail markers. This was a project that Baird's Creek Preservation Foundation had reached out to me about previously. And after hearing Kelly's soundscape idea, I thought it was maybe a potential that they could kind of combine or work together. And then beautifying vacant storefronts. I see this as kind of like the pop-up shop program that we have for vacant storefronts that need a little bit more love and attention. We could potentially host kind of temporary galleries within those spaces to draw attention to them, potentially get some renters in there, and also get exposure for artists in the community. A mural festival, we're having one this weekend, so I'm excited to see how it turns out. But if we could potentially help continue that trend and not necessarily have all of Green Bay painted, but perhaps we have some of these kind of painted over and renewed on a yearly basis, kind of like Black Cat Alley. Video projections of performances. I was trying to get in Kelly's mindset of how do we get more performers engaged in public art. And incorporating tech, I think is a huge thing because sometimes performers don't want to perform when it's December in Green Bay. So how can we get those performances still happening? So I was envisioning kind of similar to Alex's Glyph project, having like a large scale performance projected perhaps on the Neville or somewhere else that people could kind of watch, almost like a drive-in, very pandemic inspired. Another one that has been pandemic inspired is a traveling band show. Kind I've actually talked to an artist who they do this in Milwaukee, but they have crafted a band shell truck that they would drive through the neighborhoods and have performances occur on. So I could see something like this, maybe traveling to different neighborhoods and bringing the performances to the people. Providing rent for artists and studio spaces. I think this is something that would be nice to help out artists that are just getting started out, underrepresented artists who don't necessarily have the space or the means to create their art, but they have that drive to make art. They just need the space to do it. Street bump out paintings. So I already talked with Steve and the mayor about this. Bump outs are kind of the areas where parking, so you have 2 lanes, but then there's also like an additional little area for parking where it kind of verges, and then you have your parking, and then it kind of can go back into the 2 lanes. So it's just kind of the areas not in the active driving zone, I guess, for street paintings. Art in the park, similar to Fit in the Park, where we could have free or low-cost art classes available in the parks for people to make art. Bridge artwork. This has been my dream since I applied for this job. I think I mentioned it in my interview. I would love to see some type of artwork on the Leo Frico Bridge. I'm sure Steve is probably just, his spidey senses are tingling at this mention, but having some sort of bridge artwork on any of our bridges, I think would be nice, whether that's sculpture or a full like redo painting of it. It could be a lot of different things, but bridge artwork. I'm almost done with my list, I swear. I got really excited. Sustainability in art. I'm very passionate about the environment, so incorporating more ways that we could partner with the Sustainability Commission and beautify sustainable ways to move forward, or having a grant of some sort where we could provide to artists if they're going to have a piece with lights, and maybe we give them this grant so that they can use solar lights instead. But sustainability in art, a plein air event in community gardens, kind of tying off of the sustainability portion, but maybe having some sort of plein air painting event, which is where artists kind of paint in the air outside. But then having that take place in community gardens and adding focus to the local food movement. And then potentially auctioning off those paintings or that artwork at the end of the event to raise funds for community gardens and the arts. Art cart, basically a drivable cart or a vehicle that can just kind of whip around the city, and then it kind of pops up and there's free art classes or art activities for people to take part in. And then the last 2 are pretty much the same. City storyteller in residence and city artist in residence. I would love to see the city of Green Bay have a resident storyteller that for 6 months or a year or however long the timeline is, they are collecting stories from the community and finding different ways to use their stories in public art. Same thing with artist in residence. We would have a resident artist that for whatever time frame they're incorporating projects in the community. So yeah, those are my ideas. All right, Cheryl, I am ready for you.
All right, I just had 3 and I'm giving them to you as a bureaucrat. So, and before I start, I have to say that we're all artists. So all of you keep saying I'm not an artist. I call BS on that because there's artists in everyone. Alder Gerlach, I have listened to what you have written at council meetings, and I'm saying that some of those things you've written and presented have been artwork. So that being said, I think about like engaging more people and neighborhoods in art. And I think what keeps a lot of our associations from doing these things is understanding and knowing how to do them in a process. So there are a couple of neighborhood things that have really gone well on with both of the events that I've been to. You know, one is the play in the park when there was Shakespeare at Whitney Park. And then the other one was a front porch, I don't know, front porch concert that somebody had in Astor, right? Two things that are relatively easy, small-based events. But when I go to association meetings, nobody knows even where to start on that. So even if we could get some of those artistic neighborhood events put into an easy packaged process, like, hey, if you want to do this, this is what you need to do. And here's your list of artists and the costs, you know, something that makes it easy for our associations to engage in those events would be great. And then just my personal one, because I see it and it just screams at me every time I see it, is the blank parking ramp wall next to the Northland. So when you're coming down Northland Avenue, there's Washington and Northland. All you see in front of you is this huge blank wall of a parking ramp. I know murals, and we do a lot of murals, but we need a big mural in the city. A really big mural in the city of something cool next to the Northland. So I just would like really big mural. Like when you go, sometimes you see other cities, it's an entire side of a building. Something really like catches your eye. You take a picture of it, it's great. So that would be my recommendation. That's it.
Thank you. Beautiful. Alex, Beth, did you guys have any ideas that you wanted to incorporate into the list before we kind of start wrapping up our thoughts on them?
I don't have anything.
I'm so inspired. This is amazing. Yes, I'll have a list, but I don't have one at the moment. But I'll submit some in the future.
Okay, no worries. And thank you, Beth. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Or do you want me to keep this up as we continue to discuss?
I think for purposes of conversation, maybe we could go back to our faces for a second and pull it back up, Laura, if there's something very specific, or maybe ask you to read out details.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. Beautiful. Now I can see all your wonderful faces.
On the list that, like, as a city person, I went, oh my God, there's no way we can do this, right? They all were great ideas. I think that could be done. So, right?
But I think that that's actually one of the great lessons I took out of that, Cheryl, is that there are a lot of projects on there where there would be tremendous synergy with partners. And I think that, you know, because this is my term is ending on the commission, and I'm moving on with my volunteer time to serve in a different way, the arts and culture sector. And as I'm thinking about, and we're about to embark on like a year-long, very rigorous planning process for the arts and culture sector in our community. And as I'm thinking about the role of the Public Arts Commission, one of the things that really struck me was it not only, to Alex's point, how inspiring and recharging it is to just think about the great work to be done in our community, but also I just kept thinking of partners. And sometimes it was Widener, obviously, because I have some control there, right? Like, oh, we might be able to help with that. But other times, because of conversations I've had with other people where I know that there is some interest and I know that there's a willingness to seek resources. And I think that it might be, you know, to your point, Cheryl, about the neighborhood associations, there are folks out there with either little buckets of money or a desire to go out and solicit for those funds to execute projects like that. And the idea of the Public Arts Commission role, not necessarily about driving every single one of these projects and programs, but about codifying the expertise and making it available, is really well taken. And I think that that's an interesting thing for the commission to think about. If we don't have the capacity, you know, the fundraising's been very slow going since I've been a part of the commission. And if we don't have the resources and the capacity to actually drive impactful projects, then where are we adding the value to the community? And I think that a huge amount of value that we have is in the expertise and going out and sort of inspiring and shepherding and stewarding organizations or groups through executing those projects themselves is very valuable. Or even to play matchmaker. I mean, with some of Matt's ideas, I was like, can the Public Art Commission go out and get Lighthouse and one of the economic development and one more else in the same room to talk about that lighting project? Because that really, like, that got my spidey senses going, as Laura says. So maybe not doing it, but facilitating it and lighting a fire under some people about it.
I agree, considering that I would be the only one managing them. So definitely bringing the partners at the table who have those resources to be able to execute these projects, I think makes the utmost sense. Any other initial thoughts from anyone? Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, Lynn.
So following up on what Kelly just said, I'm wondering, is there anything in writing? Of course, everything turns into words in my head right away. So I'm thinking like for neighborhood associations that could take on something. Is there maybe like a little 3-page introductory manual that says how you can do public art in Green Bay? And it's meant to just get them started with some ideas and get them enthused. And then there's a follow-up manual that maybe is 20 pages that goes into more detail. And here are some resources for you. Here are some possible partners. Does such a thing exist?
No, it does not.
Okay.
But this is kind of what I was hoping would happen from this discussion, is not just that I get all your great ideas and then I just sit on them like a dragon and twiddle my thumbs. But yeah, developing like a neighborhood art guide to kind of take them through those steps and act as like a public art advisor when they have questions of, hey, do I need a permit for this? Or how do we go about these things? I absolutely think, yeah, having a simple and easy guide so that anyone really could kind of get their toes started into that public art realm, I think is
not just neighborhood associations, but anyone, as you said. So like the Baird Creek Preservation Foundation might appreciate it, and other possibles. Yes. Okay. Thanks. I would be happy to help with that.
Awesome. You volunteered. You're on my list.
It should be basic, right? Stuff we do to get the info out.
Yep. So I guess that was kind of, I think that was our next step, was just reviewing everything that we had talked about, or the ideas that we had presented, going over the summary of any of those ideas. I think all of the ideas we shared were solid. I don't think any of them were stinkers or anything that should be removed. Unless anyone says otherwise, I think that's a good list to start off with. And then looking at potential next steps forward, I think it sounds kind of like a potential next step forward that we could take is developing kind of that intro guide for people so that they know how to go about implementing a public art project. I think that might be a good action step forward. I think hanging on to these ideas that you've shared is also helpful in case Percent for Art projects come through where they don't have an idea, and we could kind of sling one of these out to share with them. And then also something else that I think might be a good next step is doing this brainstorming on maybe like a yearly basis or twice a year, because I think we all, Alex has he's got some ideas that he's got to churn up for us to share in the future. And I'm sure all of you will either talk to other partners that have ideas or come up with more ideas on your own to incorporate. Do those seem like reasonable steps forward, or are there anything else that you guys think maybe we could do based off of our discussion?
Laura, based on things that are currently on that list. One is I genuinely just don't know the answer to this. For the percent for the art, I know we haven't really had a lot of candidates to participate in that program, but I'm wondering, is the language structured? I know that the developers themselves get kind of first choice whether they want to spend the art or spend the dollars on the art themselves and, you know, pick red benches, which is what most of them will do left to their own devices, or actually hand the money over for something to be done. Is it allowed, as that program currently stands, for people to use those dollars for public programs or only public pieces? I'm thinking a lot about these like outdoor activities. So for instance, could a development downtown for 3 or 4 months out of the year run an outdoor program for children downtown in their, in their public area? Some of those classes that Chuck was talking about or that Laura brought up, is that even possible?
Yep, there is. It's like a third kind of catch-all garbage category for ideas that aren't a sculpture or a mural or a really fancy bench. All of those ideas do get passed back to you guys as far as like, hey, they want to do a program. So yes, there is absolutely room to have those funded through Percent for Art.
And then the second question I have is, how do people feel who contributed their ideas to this list about potentially pursuing some with the Public Arts Commission as a partner in introductory conversations? But, Matt had one on there that I thought, I'm meeting with the Untitled Town folks next week, and that Green Bay Stories idea, I think, has a lot of alignment with the way Untitled Town is now thinking about themselves. So I sort of want to be sensitive to people's proprietariness of their ideas, but I also think some of these ideas would benefit from kind of broader conversation beyond the scope of the PAC, but I defer to how the group feels about that.
For my stuff, go for it. It's all about actually getting it, in person and getting it realized. So I don't need ownership of it.
Do you have any interest in being involved in those conversations?
I would, for sure.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Kelly, your question about that money for the arts, that percentage for the arts, I think it's possible, but not probable that a developer would program. But that's where that developer might say, here's my money, Public Arts Commission. And that's where the programs are set up through here, then that could be funded with that money. So, because some of these big projects, that's a big chunk of change. 1% for the art on a $30 million project. I'm almost excited about thinking about it. I wish like half would go to the project and half would come to us. That would be great. But so.
All right, Laura, what else would you like to get out of this conversation with us on these topics? And I personally just want to say thank you, everyone, for your creativity. I mean, that was really, that was great, just to have a refresher about the impact that public art can have, and to be a little proactive in thinking versus reactive. So thanks, everyone.
Agreed. And like I mentioned before, I love having all of your ideas at the table. And I had even shared with other people, I was like, hey, if you have any ideas, like send them my way and I'll include them on the list. Because yeah, I'm only one person and I have a narrow viewpoint of visual art. That's where I came from. So to hear from Lynn about these artist stories and from Matt and I mean everyone, it's helpful and it's what we need. I just want to see, Kent, did you have any? I know you kind of jumped in the party late. Did you have any public art ideas that you would like to share with us? Otherwise, we kind of went through everyone's ideas, and yeah. I think the action steps we had discussed was developing kind of a easy how to do public art guide, which I think is brilliant. And then, yeah.
Sorry for showing up late, everybody. I wear the dunce hat for the day. The ideas that I have, I can just share with you later, but I shared with you them, I think several months ago. They were like the multi faceted art parade, the ABC murals, and the Eden art. So, do you want me to talk about them real quick, or you just want to have them on file?
I can have them on file, and I think part of it too, if we would like to decide if we want to do another one of these brainstorming sessions,
okay,
like twice a year, what seems like a reasonable. I don't want to hit you guys up every month and you're like, I can't come up with any ideas. So maybe twice a year, we kind of do this touch point of just sharing ideas, and maybe we get to say that story idea that Matt had brought up, we're actually working towards it, or we have these partners lined up. Does that seem reasonable to have these
it's a really long list. I might suggest once a year.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if you do it too frequently, you won't see any progress, and the list will just get longer and longer, and it will actually feel demoralizing and not inspiring.
Like, I can't check any of these off. We're not getting anywhere. Okay. Yeah. Once a year, every August. Sound good? Sounds good. Okay. So every August, we will have a brainstorming session to discuss new ideas, kind of briefly touch base on previous ideas that were shared during the last brainstorming session, and yeah, see what we can make happen. And then the other thing I think that we want to see from this discussion is for staff to develop a public art how-to guide. To be named something jazzier, but basically a easy how to do public art guide. Is that correct? Okay. I don't know how to word that into a good sounding motion.
May I have a motion to approve the two following action items to come out of our discussion of future projects and program ideas? One, that the commission revisits this topic annually at their August meeting. And two, that Laura develops a beginner's guide for neighborhood associations and other organizations that are interested in undertaking public art projects of their own.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Alex and Kent for a tie. Any dissensions or abstentions? Oh, I forgot to say all in favor. All in favor. Aye.
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 Any dissensions or abstentions? Very good. Motion carries. I feel personally pleased that my last official vote just went wrong. Okay. Thank you for that, Laura. Moving on on our agenda. The chairperson's report and project updates, that's me. And my only update is that my term is ending as chairperson. It has been an honor, a delight, and highly educational to serve as chair of the commission for the last couple of years. Along with stepping down as chair, I'm actually going to be resigning from the commission itself. And this has primarily to do with the development of the Bay Area Arts and Culture Alliance, which is a sector-wide service organization dedicated to advocacy on behalf of the sector. And we are about to take on a large project with the city, as Ahmad was at our last meeting, the city, the chamber, and the community foundation to develop a community-wide arts and culture strategy. The commission will obviously be very involved in that because we are an important part of the arts ecosystem here. So the time will come that the commission will be interviewed for that process, and its say to share its victories, its good work, and its visions for the future. So I just wanted to say thanks to you all.
Thank you, Kelly.
Coordinators report and project updates.
Yeah, things are moving along. That you all selected during our last meeting, I'm working through with Parks Department on placing those murals. Coordinating with all 15 artists is like herding cats, as some are painting them in their studios and some are going to be painting them in their own site, and then some are going to be painting them at the shelter. So there's a lot of logistics happening with that, but it is moving forward. So it looks like we will be spending our block grant money before the end of the timeline, should all things work out. And then I may be kind of throwing some projects at you down the line. It's not for certain yet, but there is a TID that is closing that has some money that needs to be spent. So currently some projects are being thrown around, and I might be, if I'm given the green light, I might be bringing them to you guys. So that is a potential. I also heard back from the Packers Foundation. I had applied for a grant through them. They had just touched base to ask some follow-up questions, but I'll be hearing the final yay or nay in about September, October, whether or not we got that grant. I had applied for that for our rotating arts program. And yeah, those are my project updates. Also, thank you everyone for the brainstorming session. I think it was controlled and very effective. So if you have any thoughts on how to improve the process for next year, shoot me an email or give me a call. But I'm very appreciative of all the wonderful thoughts and ideas that you've shared.
All right. Our next meeting is on September 22nd. And can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion.
Adjourn.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second it, Lynn.
Okay.
The dynamic duo of Lynn and Alex coming in with a second. Motion carried. No, all in favor. Aye.
Hey.
Hi.
Dissensions or abstentions? Now that motion carries. Peace out, Public Arts Commission.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly.